So recently the internet's been blowing up over the death of the girl on Instagram known as Bianca. So in this video we're going to be going over the entire story of Bianca from the very start. So I think this story is interesting because the majority of this story took place on Instagram, Discord, and Snapchat. And before her death she was extremely unknown but well documented on 4chan for some reason. It almost feels like we're in a modern day horror story. So in this video we'll be covering who Bianca was, who her murderer was, how they know each other, the sequence of events leading up to Bianca's murder, Brandon's motivation for the murder of Bianca. Bianca was just your average 17-year-old online e-girl, being a teen with a small online presence. It's surprising how well documented she was on 4chan. Now first of all, I'd like to say Bianca was not an Instagram star. That's what many news articles are reporting for some reason. Before her death, she was simply just a teenager with an Instagram account with less than 400 followers before her death. She was really just known amongst her friends, mostly online friends, and a few people who lived nearby. However, only since her death has she skyrocketed to fame. At the time of recording, she has over 100,000 followers on Instagram. Bianca was well known amongst her friends, even having a Discord server with roughly 50 people in it at the time, mostly consisting of friends and followers from Instagram and people she's just generally been talking to. She's been known to edit her photos in a trendy way as most e-girls do, and I'll just throw some examples here on screen for you guys to look at here. Bianca's been actively posting herself on the internet since the age of 14, but only recently using her looks to draw in willing guys to live out her sexual fantasies with. And now this is where the story gets a little dark. We have screenshots dating all the way back to 2017 of conversations between Bianca and various guys. We can't confirm exactly who they are at this time, but what we do know is Bianca had built up a cult of orbiters around herself. An orbiter is a guy that wants to sleep with a female friend. He orbits her, aka hangs out in a needy way in hopes of getting sex someday. If the girl is hot, then she'll usually have a lot of orbiters. With this in mind, she'd always have constant attention from the guys that she spoke to, even often bragging about how she'd had sex with 6 guys including you, and I could replace you in seconds, or I didn't even remember your name, or even saying things such as I was cheating on you the whole time anyways. But as we know, this behavior would ultimately lead to her demise. However, this story isn't as clear-cut as you think it'd be. We'll come back to Bianca later. July 14th, 2019, at roughly 4:30 a.m. in the morning, Bianca was murdered by 21-year-old Brandon Andrew Clark. But who was he and how did he know Bianca? Previously we talked about Bianca's cult following of orbiters, and you could say Brandon was one of them, growing a fast obsession with Bianca. Shortly after meeting her online through Instagram and Discord, Brandon quickly became extremely attached to her. It's unclear to when exactly they met, since some sources say they've known each other since 2017 and others report it as 2 months, and both of those arguments are fair as we have evidence to suggest that both could be true. However, we do know that Brandon has met Bianca's mother in person on multiple occasions, backing up the argument that they indeed did date for a significant amount of time. We also know that Brandon was arrested for harassment back in 2016, so we know he has an unsuccessful history with girls. Bianca only described him as her friend when people would ask about him. So the story. With that background out of the way, here are the series of events that led up to her death. Bianca had planned to go to a small concert with Brandon. However, we believe that she had changed her mind last minute and went with another guy instead. Take a look at this video here. Here we can see Brandon is driving alone listening to Stan by Eminem. Take a listen. Now just bear in mind that this song is about a guy who murdered his girlfriend by driving his car off a bridge with her tied up in the trunk, killing himself in the process. So from this, we can assume the murder was premeditated. We know that Bianca's initial plan was to get a ride to the concert from Brandon as she didn't have a car of her own. This is backed up by looking at these messages that she sent to her group chat, where in these messages she brought up Brandon. Close friends of Bianca tell us that Bianca was under the influence at the concert around 11 p.m. She arrived at the concert at 8 p.m. Brandon had not yet showed up to the concert but would eventually show up 5 hours after she arrived. We believe he showed up around 12:30 a.m. and confronted Bianca while she was with another guy. Brandon, then angry, walked away and watched the two from a distance. However, Bianca was aware that he was watching. In a bid to make Brandon jealous and probably send him away, she held hands with the guy that drove her to the concert and began to kiss him. At around 3 a.m., Brandon said he wanted to take Bianca home, but instead drove them down a dead-end road, where they sat for at least 2 hours before she was murdered. We're unsure of what happened in these 2 hours. However, if you take a look at this picture that Brandon took of Bianca's covered up corpse, you can see that her shoes have been taken off, possibly suggesting they were being intimate. or suggesting there was a struggle, and her phone was smashed suggesting that there had been an argument of some sort. This is just speculation, as the only people who would have known what went down in that car would have been Bianca herself and Brandon. After the murder, Brandon then took pictures of Bianca's blood-drained body and posted them to the Discord group that her friends were in, where naturally, all her friends were horrified to see their friend posted deceased in their own group chat. From the Discord chat, the picture was shared to Instagram, where it then blew up almost immediately. Brandon himself was the person who alerted the police of his own murder, alongside with some very disturbing comments. Shortly after, police show up to the scene, where Brandon then commits suicide by slitting his neck in front of a police officer, and then proceeds to take a selfie on his Snapchat story. Brandon survived his suicide attempt and is now currently undergoing surgery. Authorities say he's severely injured but expected to survive. I'm hoping personally that we could possibly get some answers from him to know what his true motives were. At this point, we can only speculate. Let's recap on who Bianca was. Before the time of her death, Bianca had only 400 followers on her main account at Ecstasy. However, shortly after, her corpse was posted all over Instagram. Within 15 hours, she had 15,000 followers. 24 hours after that, she had over 100,000 followers. Many people were quick to post about her, as this was quite a horrifying event for most people. The photo originated from Brandon when he posted it in the Discord, and also posted it to his story with the caption of "I'm sorry, Bianca." His account was since then deleted, and police have asked Instagram to prevent that picture of Bianca's body from being shared on their platform. We think Brandon has had a troublesome life. He dropped out of school at the age of 16. From this, we can presume he never got his degree, but Brandon now has at least one degree to his name, as he was charged with second-degree murder and is currently awaiting trial. So that's it, guys. That's the end of the story. Personally, when I look at Brandon, I don't see a murderer. I just see somebody who needed help. I mean, it was quite heartbreaking to hear that, something like that had to happen. At first we all presumed that they were both dead, and the fact that we know that Brandon's still alive at least gives us some insight into what happened. It's crazy to think that she was just a normal teenager, like you or like me, and it just shows you that it could happen to anybody. I've seen a lot of people saying she deserves to die. Like, I disagree. Who deserves to die? A lot of people have been calling her an e-girl, e-thought, e-whore, whatever, all these derogatory terms. But if you really talk to some of her friends, you can see that she really wanted to change her, like, who she was as a person. I'm not saying she should have said those things or she had the right to say those things. I'm not saying Brandon had the right to murder her. I just think if we're all a little bit more considerate towards each other, I don't think things like this would happen. You can't blame Brandon for this either. You have to look at the story from Brandon's perspective. We don't really know too much about Brandon at this point, but if you go through his feed, like let's take a look at this. Like, he just looks sad. Like, he's gone through an emo phase. Like, he's just a depressed person. I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm just saying that we could at least understand it from his perspective. Obviously, the family of Bianca are going to be horrified. They're going to be angry. You can just expect that. And I just want to say, lastly, final word on this, it's not the fault of Snapchat. It's not Instagram's fault. It's not Discord's fault. It's not 4chan's fault. This is just the internet. They gave us these platforms to communicate on, and it's just a shame that people have to go and do things like this. But hey, this is my last word on it. Guys, I've been Body Opener. This has been my video. I hope this explains and clears up everything that you guys wanted to know. I appreciate the views, guys, and goodbye.